Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sales for Breakfast. You are going to want to stay for the entire time this time if you are interested in diversifying your income and you have interest in real estate. That means that perhaps you have your own portfolio and you want to expand it, or maybe you've never dabbled before and you're like, how are people affording to do this? And you're interested in what short-term rentals and the Airbnb business can do for your life, your income, and your future. Today, I have Airbnb coach and expert Jorge Contreras, and I am so excited to have you here. And welcome to the show.
Yay, welcome. Thanks for having me on, Michelle. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. So, fun story about how I met Jorge is that I found him on someone else's show. And when I was listening, I'm like, oh my gosh, he is so cool. I need to know him. So I went to his website just like a good person, and I went to his webinar and I learned all about Airbnb, and it was amazing. And I watched the whole webinar and I loved it. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go follow him on Instagram, all the things. And then I was at an event in Florida a few weeks ago, I guess maybe a month now, at Funnel Hacking Live. And because we all wear name tags, I saw him on my way getting into an Uber. I was like, oh my gosh, we've got to chat. My audience needs to know about this. Will you please be on my show? And this is how we showed up. And the lesson here, everyone, is that it doesn't, like, when you show up boldly in your life and your business, really cool things can happen. And I'm super excited to bring you to my audience today.
I know. I'm sorry. I was just going to say I'm really excited as well. But yeah, it was so interesting how we were at the Uber. You were about to leave. I was about to get my Uber. And you're like, oh, my God, we got to get you on the show. And I was like, let's make it happen. And now here we are 5 weeks later.
Which is amazing. All right. Tell us how you got involved in helping other people set up their Airbnb business in 30 days or less without having to own the property, which is the coolest part.
Yeah. And, we'll speak to two audiences because I feel like there's going to be a group of people that are not in a position to go and buy real estate, also because the crazy high interest rates, the high prices. And so I'm going to talk about the arbitrage model, but then I'm sure you have like a percentage of people, Michelle, that are already at multiple six figures or maybe even seven figures, and they want to learn how to use real estate as a tax shelter. And I'll talk about how they can offset ordinary and active income through actually owning real estate, because that's like super exciting. But yeah, just a little bit about me. I started my first business 15 years ago as a professional dance instructor. I was performing Latin dance, specific bachata called a dance called bachata, sensual partner dance from the Dominican Republic. And I was traveling to like 25 plus countries, teaching, performing, coaching other instructors of other types of dances how to do this. And I got to do that for a really long time. And it was great. Got to, just travel the world, right? The problem is that I was running that business like a job. So whenever I talk about becoming financially free or, leaving my 9 to 5, I refer to that business as my 9 to 5 because it needed me in order for it to operate. And I was working like 14 hours, a day. And just to kind of go back, right? I'm a big believer that we are always doing certain things in order to validate our beliefs to be true. And back then, Michelle, one of my beliefs was that working hard equals success. So to me, that translated to working 14, 16-hour days. And it got to the point where I got a herniated disc in my back, my L5S1. I couldn't dance, then I couldn't run, then I couldn't walk. And then I was like laid on the floor and I couldn't really stand up anymore. And so I went to get an MRI. The doctor said it was that he needed to perform surgery within 24 hours and that it was a 50-50 chance I would ever walk again. Wow. And for me, that was an eye-opening experience because I'm like, oh my God, like, what if I can't walk? Like, what am I going to do? Like, I literally need my body to pay my bills, And that's what led me to thinking about how do I make money without my body? And how do I create money without needing to be there physically trading time for money? And that's what led me to real estate and passive income. And so I started buying real estate that same year. In 2017, I launched my first 4 Airbnbs on properties that I already own. Then in 2019, I went into the subleasing and arbitrage model. And, that business is a multiple 7-figure business in itself. And then I also started my coaching company where now we've helped over 3,000 people get on the path to creating financial freedom with Airbnbs.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing. What a story. That's such a unique background. And, it takes something significant, like, for example, the MRI and the issue with your back, like, nope, no more. I am done. I'm going to do this. So now I know you give that freedom to everybody who might be feeling like that right now. And I think in the coaching industry, so, I have a lot of people who follow me who are coaches, and, there's scalable offers and you can remove yourself. And like, we've learned all of the things. But at the end of the day, you still are the IP. You still are the big thing. So the beauty about having some real estate some real estate investments to help you gain more wealth is really invaluable. But I think it's like a scary thing for a lot of people to think about doing, or expanding their portfolio in the time of like interest rates going up and stuff like that. So why don't you break down the two different types of investment models that you had just mentioned, so
Yeah.
we can expand on both of those?
Yeah. So let's go through the sort of what I would call like the intro beginner model. And this is for people that don't have 15 or 20% to put down on investment properties, which today that could translate to like $100 to $200,000 out of pocket just to get the first one up and running, right, with the purchasing. And so whenever you cannot own the asset, you want to control the asset through a contract. And so subleasing, if I put it in third grade language, is the process where you rent a property from an owner, like on a 12-month lease, and then you rent it on a platform like Airbnb, and then you charge a nightly rate. So for example, if I rented a property for $3,000 a month, but then I charge $300 a night, then that means at 10 days I break even, at 20 days I double my rent, and at 30 days I triple my rent. And that's exactly what that business model is. And you don't get all the benefits of owning real estate, right? Like the depreciation, all the tax benefits. It's strictly a cash flow play. And so for people that want to replace their 9 to 5, and that's their biggest goal, which is 95% of our population are 9 to 5ers in a W-2. If your goal is to replace a 9 to 5, then subleasing is the most effective way to get there, because again, there's no down payments, no closing costs. It's just way less money, and you would make the same amount of monthly profit as if you own the real estate. Now,
Right.
let's talk about the second strategy, right? There's really 5 benefits to owning real estate, right? You have your cash flow, that's the monthly profit after all the expenses. You have the appreciation, which is the increase in value over time. And then you have mortgage pay down, taxes, and depreciation. And I want to talk a little bit about the depreciation, because this is a really fun game to play. Like when you're at multiple 7 figures and beyond, you start playing this game of like, okay, how much real estate do I need to buy to get rid of my federal and state taxes, where you could legally pay 0? Now, I happen to live in the greatest state in the US, which is California. And it's the greatest place to live, but the worst state for taxes. So there's like almost nothing we can do to get rid of our state taxes, but we can get rid of our federal through something called depreciation. And I'm not sure if the listeners here have heard of accelerated depreciation, but just the way you could buy a vehicle, right? If you buy a vehicle that weighs 6,000 pounds or more and you use it for your business, you can depreciate the entire purchase price in year 1. So like if somebody makes 100 grand in profit after all expenses, but then they go and they buy a Tesla Model X, they just wiped out their entire income. Well, you can do something very similar with properties that you actually own. And so again, you start playing this game of like, how much real estate do I need to own in order to offset my taxes? And then of course you still get the cash flow and you get all the benefits. But I always tell people, start with phase 1, replace your 9 to 5, then take all that cash flow from 3 to 5 subleases and then start buying real estate to start creating long-term wealth.
Oh my gosh, I love it. So is that how you started? Did you start with the sublease model?
I actually went backwards, right? When I discovered Airbnb in 2016, I had leases that were ending like in February of 2017. So in March of 2017, I launched my first 4 listings all in the same month on units that I already owned. But then in 2019, I went in. And so I kept buying and doing the purchasing strategy 2017, 2018. And then in 2019, I'm like, wow, I need to make more cash flow because I want to I want to replace my wife's 9 to 5. And so I went straight into subleasing, launched a ton of properties doing that strategy. And then I went back into the purchasing. So currently we still do both. Our portfolios like almost 50-50 between ownership and subleasing.
Well, that's amazing. So when I was listening to you on the show I listened to you originally on and how I found you, what I loved about what you talked about, and because I teach sales, like I love this part of it, is for those that are looking for sublease opportunities, like if you can just get out there and knock on a few doors or look for the opportunity for like the person who would benefit from you doing this to their property, like that's how you can get started. And having those sales skills and the sales courage and the confidence is like a catalyst to exiting the 9 to 5. Can you expand a little bit on that before I go to the other model about how you get that first opportunity, like the actual, like asking for it, approaching the property owner? I just found that really interesting from a sales perspective.
Yeah, definitely. So typically we go on on a website called Zillow.com, which I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with, and you're going to find all the listings that are available to rent and to buy. And so it's got a couple of filters. You click, I want to rent properties in what city, how many bedrooms, bathrooms. And then once you find a property you like, there's going to be like a phone number and whoever is in charge. It may be the owner or it may be the property, the owner or the property manager. And so the phone number is there, right? Like 90% of the time. Otherwise, you can email them. But 90% of the time, you could just pick up the phone and dial the number. And I find this to be such a great opportunity, Michelle, because I know you teach sales. And people who you look at any company and you look at the people who make the most amount of people who make the most amount of money, not people, that would be weird. Whoever makes the most amount of money, and it's always people who are in sales. Like I look at my company, people who are in sales in my company make more money than everybody else, right? Even if the other people work more, some of these people work half, but make twice as much as everybody else because they're in sales. And so I think the great opportunity here is, I get all these, like 90% of my students are 9 to 5ers who are starting a business for the very first time and getting into real estate Airbnb for the very first time. And those who don't have sales experience and don't feel confident picking up the phone, this is an opportunity to conquer this communication, skill, because it's something that could make them a ton of money for the rest of their life. And so whenever these students are super shy, especially if they're introverts and they feel like, oh, I don't want to call because what if they say no? I always tell them that all these internal struggles that are coming up have nothing to do with Airbnb and everything to do with them. And so this is like an opportunity to break through that ceiling and break through any limiting beliefs and go out there and just become the greatest version of themselves. And that's what I see. Like when students are able to break through those conversations and pick up the phone and pitch the opportunity and view these properties and they get a no or someone hangs up, but they don't care and they keep going, man, those people they will be millionaires at some point in the next, 3 to 10 years because they just keep growing, evolving, and challenging themselves.
100%. Like I strongly feel that the ability to sell is one of the greatest skills you can ever teach yourself because it doesn't just help you do one thing, it helps you do everything in your life. And I love it. And I thought it was such a unique application of it, like being able to pick up the phone and like find these properties and, go out there and be like, hey, this is what I can do for you. How do you position that offer? How do you get somebody to say, yes, please do that? Like, this sounds like wonderful, just that negotiation, that making the offer and feeling confident to do so. And the thing is it's available for anybody who's willing to do it and to learn. And like, that's the coolest part of it. So I love that so much. So anyone listening right now, you're still in your 9 to 5, maybe you're not making enough money to have that 10 to 15%, down payment. And then this is the option for you. Now let's talk about the people who have a chunk of change that are like, what do I do with this? Or how do I use depreciation so that I lower my tax liability? Because I grew up in California, almost 39 years in California until I moved to New York for an opportunity for my husband, which isn't that much better. But I know exactly what you're talking about. So any California natives right now are going to feel our pain. So let's talk about when they know that the opportunity is to buy this property, the opportunity is depreciation. Like, let's talk through that model a little bit more too.
Absolutely. So let's talk about a couple of different things. And one of the things that I would recommend for people to do, if they're able to do this, is basically buy a new owner occupied home like every 12 months. And the reason for that is there's a lot of programs that people think or call them like, oh, it's a first time home buyer program, but there's no such thing as a first time home buyer, at least for what I'm going to talk about. It's more like you can use it as many times as a story makes sense program, right? So for example, like if you lived, say, let's just say there's like 4 cities here, right? The city 1, the city 2, city 3, city 4. And let's say your business or your business or W-2 address is right here. If you go and buy the first property as far like maybe like 2 hours away, but then in 12 months after you buy here, you buy another one here and then another one here. As long as you're moving closer to your job or your business address, you can continue to go in with like 5%. And when it comes to real estate, a lot of people automatically think like, oh, I'm going to put 20% down because then my mortgage payment. But that's like a poor way of thinking, because you don't want to pay off your home. The name of the game is leverage. And so I would rather put, if I have $100,000, I would rather put 25,000 into 4 properties than 100,000 into 1 property, because in 10 years, when those property values double, you have 4 times the cash flow, 4 times the appreciation, just 4 times everything. And that is how wealth is created. Wealth is not created by owning your personal residence with no mortgage, right? So that's really like the first thing. And so again, this
Can I stop you there for a second?
Sure,
Because I'm obsessed with this concept right now, and I love that you're talking about it, is don't be so afraid of debt, leverage debt. The richest people use debt. Like I read something the other day that Elon Musk still doesn't pay for things in cash. There's like for a reason for that. And so, but there's a story we've been told that like debt equals bad. Like you aren't wealthy, you aren't rich. Like you shouldn't owe any money. Like undoing that thought process, I'm sure like you have tons of tools and resources inside your program to help literally prove the mind wrong on it, right?
Yeah, it's so powerful. I think a lot of us, because most of us grow up with parents who weren't rich and these multi-millionaire entrepreneur parents, right? And so a lot of the beliefs passed down are like, don't use credit cards, cut them up. If you can't pay it all in cash, that means you can't afford it. And like all these models, including go to school, get a job, and then go work, for someone else for the next 40 years, get your white picket fence. And then when you're 65, you'll be completely free, and then you can travel. But and it's crazy because like, and I'm sure you experience the same, Michelle, but like most of my students are like, okay, Jorge, I did all of that and I'm still struggling. They're like, I have a high income, but look at all my student debt. Look, I have a high income, but I have no assets to show for it. And I'm literally just working for the next 10 years to pay off my student loans. And so that's what's so great about how we're as entrepreneurs, we're solving this. We are the alternative to the traditional education where they're just enslaving people at 9 to 5s while taking 50% of their taxes. Like we're teaching people how to create their own business, how to become great communicators, how to make more in sales, how to earn more in less time, and how to make a lot of that tax free. And so we really are changing the world like one person at a time. And I think everybody should give themselves an opportunity at sales, starting the business, and then owning real estate to making it tax free.
Yes. Oh my gosh, so much. So let's talk a little bit more about. I loved what you said. Is you'd rather see someone invest 20,000 across 4 homes than just like one for the 100. And then let's talk a little bit about the power of depreciation, because I think that's a really it's a big word. And if you don't have a financial planner in your life or an advisor or a CPA who's teaching you these things, like this is our opportunity right now on this stage to educate people about it. So I think it's really important.
Yeah, so I'll kind of go through my story, right? Back when I got my first house in 2012, I was sending my mortgage payment, and at the time it was only 1,500. That included principal, interest, taxes, insurance. But in addition to that 1,500, I was sending Michelle an extra 3,000 to 5,000 a month just towards the principal. So I was on track to pay that house off in 8 years, and I was like so happy. I'm like, oh my God, I'll be 32 and my house will be paid off. And then I got me a mentor at the Rich Dad Company. Okay. I invested like 35 grand back in 2015. And I got their most expensive package that also came with a one-on-one mentor. And what the first breakthrough was, so Jorge, tell me, why are you paying down your mortgage? And I'm like, cuz I want to be financially free. She said, honey, that's not how you do it. And, at the time, I was nowhere near a millionaire, like not even close. Right. But of course, my mentor, her name's Mary Jo. She's a multi-millionaire back in 2015. And she said, if you want to be financially free, Or she said, look, if you pay off your house, she said, yeah, you'll be mortgage payment free. She said, but you're still going to be stuck in a rat race. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. She's like, yeah, you still have to pay for your phone and your gas and your utilities. And like, what if you want to, like, you're never going to be financially free. You're still going to be stuck to like a 9 to 5. And I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? She said, what you should do is do a refinance cash out. That's where
Mm-hmm.
you pull out equity. For anybody that's not familiar, that's you pull out equity from the existing loan. And by the way, everything that you take out is going to go straight into your checking account. And because during a refinance cash out, the money you take out is considered borrowed money, you don't pay any taxes. And I was like, what? So she broke it down on a piece of paper and she said, look, you could take out $160,000 in the next 30 days, tax free. And what I want you to do with it is go and buy 2 more properties. And that's exactly what I did. And so I kid you not, just that switch from paying down my mortgage and thought that was the way to now switching the mindset that the name of the game is leverage and that's how wealth is created, made the $35,000 investment worth it just with that one huge golden nugget. And now that's what I do whenever I acquire more rentals on the purchasing side. My goal is, how do I get into this property with as little money out of pocket? Because again, the less the money that I put into it, the better the return on investment. And so again, true, like the name of the game is leverage. That is how wealthy people become rich.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. So what I also love about what you're doing is you can do it in 30 days or less. And if you have a 9 to 5, like you can do this in the after hours. You can do this in the nooks and crannies. Like you can get started with it, right? And so can you talk to us a little bit about what it would look like the path working with you? If someone was like, heck yes, I'm all in, like show me the way. Can you tell us what that would look like?
Yeah, definitely. So we have coaching programs that are 6 months and 12 months, and all of them are group coaching, and they also come with a one-on-one coach. But it's always more about the outcome, right? So like what we specialize is taking someone who's new to Airbnb, new to entrepreneurship, and then getting them to 10K to 20K a month in the next 6 to 12 months, depending on their capital and their motivation. But yeah, we have coaching calls like 7 days a week, group calls that focus on all the aspects of the business, one-on-one coaches that they also get who are all multiple 6-figure coaches. We have in-person events. But yeah, we started the coaching back in October of 2018, so just a little over 4 years ago, and we've had over 3,000 students from literally like almost every zip code in the US, like just from everywhere, East Coast, West Coast, everything in between, and even from like other countries.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I mean, talk about an ROI. They go into a group coaching program. They're having 10 to 15 recurring revenue. They learn all of the leverage skills and all of the things. Well, I think this is incredible. And I am so glad that you're doing this for everyone because it's just one more way to freedom. It's one more way to diversified income. And like, we'll call a spade a spade. A lot of people are freaking out right now. They're like, recession, what's happening? Like, it's a contraction mode. So if you can bear with yourself and believe in yourself and get out of contraction and go into expansion, there are these types of opportunities out there. So I hope anybody listening now who is listening live or to the replay goes and follows you on Instagram, reaches out and asks for the help that they need in order to achieve this. This is on their bucket list. Like when I was telling my clients and my audience about this, I mean, everyone was so excited. They're like, wow, yes, this sounds incredible. And oh, I have like the buzz was awesome because it's something that it's not like another coaching program you can build. Like this is literally like an investable asset, and you can learn just not how to invest in the real estate, but also all these really important financial aspects like depreciation and leveraging debt and like lifelong skills that will cross pollinate, I would say, into their lives. So what would you say to somebody who's just scared right now? They're like, oh, I want to do this, but like something inside's telling me like now's not the time.
Absolutely. And the recession is going to be something that not everybody experiences, right? Like I'm sure you see people in our industries. There's people right now that are definitely struggling financially. But then there's people that are making more money today than they ever have in their entire lives. So not everybody is going to experience a challenge financially during the recession. And one of the things that I believe it really comes down to between those who add another zero to their net worth and win during the recession versus those who don't win and they're just waiting on the sidelines like they always do, It's going to be a
Yep.
couple of things, but one of them is going to be like the skills, right? Because a person who doesn't take action, who's just waiting in the sidelines for this perfect moment that will never come, they couldn't see or recognize an opportunity if it slapped them in the face because they don't have the skills. So somebody could say, hey, there's a great opportunity. And they're going to be like, I don't know what to do with it. But people who are investing in themselves and learning from people that have the result and outcome that they want, when the opportunities are presented, and they will know exactly what to do. And so that's my recommendation. Whether you want to learn sales or Airbnb or anything, find a mentor. And this is the time. There couldn't be a better time to prepare yourself, acquire the skills, surround yourself with like-minded people on the same path. Like I said, you don't want to be that person that's waiting on the sidelines. And during 2020, that the pandemic was the excuse, and then other excuses, and now it's a recession, and then interest rates. And these people, these drifters, right? They always find something to peg their inability to take action, their procrastination. They don't take ownership and responsibility. And so this is really the time to hone in on these skills so that you can be prepared to, become the greatest version of yourself, and in the process add another zero to your net worth.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that so much. And I mean, I can't even imagine. So I started my business 3 months before the pandemic hit, clearly not knowing the pandemic was going to happen. And looking back, like, hindsight 2020, I'm like, oh my gosh, if I wouldn't have taken that plunge, I would have greatly regretted it. Like my business catapulted and exploded during the pandemic because people were now stuck at home still trying to sell. So they came to me to figure it out. And it actually ended up being the greatest gift ever to my business. So there are two different sides to every coin, friends. And if you've been considering real estate and you want to know how, this is my recommendation. Go check it out. Have some fun with it. And if you do end up doing it, I want to know where your Airbnb is and when it's up for its first short-term rental. So thank you so much for joining us today. Do you have any last words that you'd like to leave us with?
Yeah, for anybody out there that's overthinking, just focus on progress, not perfection. Perfection doesn't exist. Great entrepreneurs do two things. They take action fast, and then they pivot as necessary. So focus on progress, not perfection, and take massive action.
Wonderful. Awesome. Thank you so much. I will talk to you soon.
It.
This was
Thank you
awesome.
so much. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.